we don't have to know how to do everything. We need to find the people to surround us with that know how. And there's a huge shift and difference in that thinking. If nobody hears anything but that message, that's a good message. Think about a child and think about all the growth and all they know and all they learn the first 2 years of their life. We would all be geniuses if we kept learning at that rate. Anyone could be unstoppable because we have it within. And if you don't feel like you do, there's places to go and learn how to get that. So that would be my challenge. If you don't feel like you have it, figure out where you can get it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Sovereign Self Show. This is a show you learn how your emotions and your body are not in the way, they are leading the way. And again, I'm your host, Lauren Chalantani, and today we are talking with Holly Porter all about retreats and the benefits mind, body, soul. I'm sure everybody listening can relate. A little bit more on Holly before we jump on in. She is the author of 15 books, international speaker, spirited business creator. Holly Porter hails from Las Vegas, Nevada, now calling St. George, Utah home, with over 11 startups under her belt, including a game-changing retreat leader software. She cultivates vibrant communities, and her incredible journey continues a 70-day battle and a 2-time incubation, tracheotomy, and other life-threatening issues with COVID, which she emerged with unwavering determination. As you guys can see, she is absolutely glowing as well. Holly has a nonprofit for supporting women to be resilient, lead with purpose, passion, and presence called the Adventure Bucket Wishlist Foundation. Holly is also a real estate broker for almost 20 years, and this mom of 8 and grandma of 18 unwinds playing with a grandkid side by side, writing and indulging with true crime shows. Wow. Welcome, Holly, to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
My goodness. What a beautiful bio, a very accomplished self and personal life. And what I love jumping in before we kind of go into everything is I always love asking, what does your sovereign self mean to you? Because you've accomplished a lot and you're still going. So how does that sovereignty come into play in your life?
Gosh, I think it's just having resilience to things and tenacity, just knowing you got to push through to the next thing. And not that I don't have down days. Trust me, there's plenty. Last week was kind of a rough week with something somebody said to me. And it just, it's hard when we don't listen to people that aren't where we want to be. Right. It's like, it's them mirroring us. And yeah, good lesson for me. It was another lesson. I love lessons.
Yes. And the contrast and the lessons that come from that kind of help us shape our own self, shape that success. It's my belief. We don't change because things are good. We change because we see a need. We change because we are uncomfortable. And your bio and your journey has been that. I'm sure those 15 books, 11 startups all came from some desire for change, for growth.
Yeah, I like change. I know a lot of people don't, but that probably is why. I feel like you're either going to get some growth, you're going to get a lesson, you're going to figure something out. And if you don't, you seem to repeat mistakes. And mine seems to be 3 times. I'm a little hard-headed and I feel like I need lessons 3 times before I finally go ding, ding, ding. Biggest lesson I've learned though is watching others make the mistake and not repeating that, right? Learning from others and watching. I don't want to go through that. And usually I do. I'm getting a little wiser. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, more experience for sure. I want to kind of incorporate this into retreats. Retreats are a super beneficial, powerful jumpstart, rejuvenating aspect of the growth process. I see a lot of people go on retreats and then the integration after, right? This kind of ties in what we're talking about is you just go back to the normal life. So what's been your experience with retreats and in those big life-changing moments and now kind of coming back to reality?
Yeah. Wow, that's a loaded question for me. A great one though. I think I've made the mistake many times, and I do a lot of events as well. Not necessarily they're not really retreats. People call events retreats sometimes when it's not really, right? I mean, let me read the definition first of all. Let's see. Retreat has multiple meanings depending on the context. So the general definition is the act of withdrawing from a situation, place, or condition, often for safety, rest, or reflection. So when I think what I learned the most about retreats is you go, give yourself some buffer time or an event. I'm going to say that blanket statement too, because I would come back and just jump right into work. I would have, you almost need a day in between to regroup, at least a day. But it's challenging when you're already taking that time off work, especially if you're a 9 to 5er or, employee. Then you go have this great experience and then you come back and it's like back to the grind, back to the grind. So one thing I have really, really been paying attention to, I have a really awesome mentor right now for my software company. And he challenges me. He's a word nerd and he seriously reads the dictionary for fun. I am not kidding. He has it mapped out when he's going to finish his 300 something pages. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I would rather do anything but that. But hey, he's awesome and he's been so good for me. And so let's see if I can remember them all. He has me set goals and then the objectives and one word and tactics. There's 4. If I think about it, I'll bring it up again. But that has been super helpful because like I went to an event last week, was not a retreat, and there was a mastermind included in it. And his thing was, okay, what are your goals, strategies, objectives, and tactics? And I had them. And I know that first day I looked and I was, oh, am I doing this? And I think if you can go with that in mind, it's really all about attention. When you think about retreats, the little woo-woo more side things, intention is really going to cover those. But what's the goal? What's the end game? What do you want to come back? Learning, knowing, being different. How does that look? Not that you want to be a robot and go to a retreat and say, oh, this is who I got to be when I come back. Fix it. That's not what it's about at all, right? So that for me, that has been super helpful. So every time I do a retreat, work with somebody on a retreat or go to any type of event, those are 4 things I'm going to write out before I go so that I can do a check-in and say, hey, did I accomplish that? And what was amazing by writing it down, and you probably all know this, you get it done. It happens. It almost happens automatically. It's like a manifestation process. By writing it down, somehow in your mind, it's there. And so you're creating it somehow. And it's amazing how you go back and look and you think, oh, I didn't really pay attention to that. And then you start looking and checking off the boxes and you really did them. So it's a long answer.
Yeah, no, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. I think, for me, it's setting the intention and then let go of the outcome.
Yes.
That's the huge thing, because when we focus on then, we're focusing on what we don't have or the lack, and just let go and trust that it is all working out for you. Whether it is a retreat or it is like your day or the next segment, like coming on a podcast, that kind of a thing. That's really, really helpful. Abraham Hicks, law of attraction people, they talk a lot about that segment intending. And that's really what it is set our intention, let go of the outcome, and you'll realize, oh, wow, instead of trying to relax, instead of trying to be whatever, if you just set the intention to let it go, it's a lot easier to actually embody that than the trying. It's always separate than us. We're trying to get there. We're in that state of separation. And I love what you said about the integration time for retreats. Was when I started going to retreats, very spiritual, deep, week-long meditation retreats. I didn't know that. And I, was working corporate America, and a lot of the times I ended up having to take an extra personal day or something after because of my body actually needing the time to catch up. Because when we're all about the woo here, when we go into that deep spiritual state and we're getting these upgrades and shifting timelines and healing and all of this beautiful manifestation stuff, sometimes our bodies, the beautiful beings that we are, need a little bit more time to catch up. Whether that's being tired, or sometimes you can even feel like you have like a flu-like symptom.
Yes.
It's your body literally detoxing all of that old stuff, the belief systems, the thoughts, the energy. And even like we're traveling full time. Everybody listening probably knows that already. This is the first episode we're doing at our new location. We're in the mountains in North Carolina. And it took me a few days, even just traveling in the car for a few hours, to recover, because new energy, new place, who do I want to be? And I just was like, okay, I'm going to give myself a day just to shift and to allow and to see what intention I want to set to kind of tie it all back together. Because when we can allow ourselves that space, that's when our mind and the wisdom in God can really kind of come in and speak through us, instead of just going to the next, right? Going to the next thing. And I'm sure you have a lot of experience with the balance of this, right?
I'm still learning. I'm getting better all the time. I mean, getting knocked into a coma for a while, really, that changed a lot for me, I have to say. Yeah.
So what is your relation, like, being a very successful woman who's creating more with a beautiful family and health stuff that you've had to learn to adapt and grow from. How do you know when to balance that, the resting versus the going? And for me, it's more of like an internal. Sometimes there are seasons where it is a lot of work, but it's the energy in which I approach it that's different.
I have a perfect example. When I went I was out of town for 2 different weeks, not for the whole week, but I came home for a few days and then left again. And one was on an airplane. And there's a real fear for me of being around crowds. I love people. That lights me up. I'm an extrovert, but, and I don't even know if it's in my bio it says. So just so your audience understands, I spent 70 days in the hospital, you were saying, with COVID. And I was in a coma for 32 days. I was on some kind of ventilation for 50 and a feeding tube for 63. So breath means a whole new thing to me these days. And it taught me to slow down, and it taught me to pay attention. So I've worked very, very hard on my health. For 2.5 years, I mean, it's been over 3, but for 2.5 years, I had long COVID. I was still pretty sick. There's up and down days. I mean, pain was 4 to 7 every day. Fatigue was awful, and from being super healthy going to that, it was like, what the heck? I mean, this is not my norm. So there's been a lot of adjusting. So the last 2 years from like Thanksgiving, because I went like out of the country 2 years in a row. And I got sick from like Thanksgiving time until about the middle of January for like 6 full weeks. I could just, every 2 weeks, I would get something different. My immune system was just fine. It was just a mess. Well, I went out of town last week thinking, got it beat. We're already past the middle of January. This is great. I'm not going to be sick this year. Sure enough, that bug going around, I started getting sick like the day I was coming home. I'm glad I didn't really get it until I got home, but just the fatigue hit me. And for me, it's those long COVID symptoms come back. And, I was in bed. I mean, I was sick for a week, and I was in bed for probably a good 3 days, but I was down for 5 or 6 for sure. And so I guess it's just that awareness. No, I listened to my body though, and I literally did not have a ton of things going on my schedule. But I was like, when you get that unhealthy, your health means everything. What can you do if you're not healthy? And so I worked so hard to get there. And so it's frustrating, but it's also a real fear. And so it's like, okay, I have another couple trips coming up. I need to start getting on board with my immune system. I take tons of supplements, don't get me wrong, but I have some that are extra in the winter. And I thought I wasn't going to get it, so I didn't take them. So it's being aware and then listening to your body. And I didn't feel guilty for laying in bed. I binged TV shows that I never see, my true crime. I watched the whole season of NCIS. I was like, heck, forget all these episodes. Anyway, I just thought it's okay. Just be. And that's really different for me. That was never in my wheelhouse. I mean, a lot of it was because I always ran 3 or 4 companies. We had a lot of kids growing up, so, now there's grandkids, but they have parents that are taking care of them. So it's just a different world. And you just need to just focus on, but like I said, my health's huge. It's a huge focus, but there's also a lot of fear around it. So,
Hmm.
again,
Yeah. Like, I think a lot of people can relate. I started this podcast, it was more holistic health related. It was witchy wellness radio for many, many years. And I hear a lot from listeners who were going through their own chronic health issues. And, hearing guests like you inspired them, kept them going. And now it's like through our own healing journeys, now we want to give back.
yes.
And it's not to say that that healing journey is over. It's a continuation, right? Like you said, it's like, yeah, I'm learning to listen to my body, to rest. And yeah, there's still the fear, right? There's still that trust or whatever lesson that you're learning right now. And I think a lot of women I talk to and work with are that, I don't know if it's imposter syndrome's the right word. And a bird just hovered right outside the window there. So that maybe is the right word. But we feel like they're in the middle, right? They're not completely healed or, lost. If they're a weight loss coach, lost all the weight they wanted, or as successful as business coaches, I think they should be. And they let that hold them back from actually sharing. We talked off air how important the story is, their own journey, their insights of like what they learned and how they overcame it. So what's your perspective on this of like the imposter syndrome? How do you overcome that and be able to confidently and really authentically share your journey, share where you're at from a grounded place, not from a, pity me kind of point of view as well?
Yeah, I love that question. That's really good. I feel like we all do suffer from the imposter syndrome for sure. And the confidence and you look at someone and they think, oh, you're so confident. Well, what I learned is that we're all people. We all bleed the same color. And it doesn't matter who we are. I used to be so intimidated by certain people at certain levels. I can't even tell you really. Besides Reba McEntire, she's my favorite because everyone always tells me I look like her. And I'm like, cool, she's a neat person. Like, I don't idolize her, but I have seen her in concert. I would love to meet her in person because she's just a good, wholesome person. But any celebrity, I can't think of anyone that that I would hop on a plane to go see, that I have to see, that because I'm not worshiping idols. I mean, I want to become somebody, then become it. Use them for examples, but they're not better than you or me. They're just different. And the other thing I've learned is that sometimes I feel, especially with the long COVID, because it really does mess with your brain. And I notice when symptoms are creeping up, even now, I get that lack of confidence. Like, oh, I don't know anything. I'm dumb. That comes through my head, like, because it twists around things in my mind. Like, it's so hard to explain. I'm also a real estate broker. So I've done real estate for 20 years. So I would drive past my house on a busy road and I lived on the corner. That's how mixed up my brain would get. So it's a real thing. I'm not saying I'm making any of this up. For me, it's real. And so then those fears kind of creep in and I have to just set them aside and say, hey, I'm not stupid. I just know different things than you. Right. I mean, somebody that might know a lot about tech's all new to me. I've had 11 startup companies. None of them have been in tech. So it's a very masculine energy, which it's heavy. And so there's a lot of learning growth there. But those people that know about tech, they probably don't know. I had a salon and spa for 20 years, but they couldn't go sit down and do someone's hair. I'm just saying, we know different things. We all have different zones of genius, and we have to let all those self-taught things go and just say, hey, focus. This mentor gave me a real kind of a talking to this last week and was like, you need to get back in the saddle. Because I was really kind of down after this mastermind I went to. And I was having a lot of that chatter. Again, I was sick as well. That didn't help, right? So don't make decisions when you're not feeling well. Not that I had any to make, but I was just like, somebody asked me like when I would give up on this tech dream. And I looked at her and I said, number one, she's not my ideal client at all, and she doesn't understand that business. And I looked at her, I said, that thought honestly has never crossed my mind. Quitting wasn't an option. Maybe shifting is, but quitting and I was like, and it did kind of depress me. And so my mentor was like, kind of got me in check and said, you need to get back in the saddle, do this and this and this. And so I felt really reprimanded, but then he turned around and was my best cheerleader at the end and gave me that confidence. And he said, you know so much more than you believe you know. And that made me so happy. I was like, yeah, you are right. I do. And so and I can't tell you, that was Friday. Today's on Tuesday. I can't tell you my energy difference. Just feeling better for one, but him just giving that, I got your back. Like you got this, giving me that confidence. I'm an idea person. And yesterday alone, I had the idea already, but like I came up with the how. And let me just share this one thing about how. We don't have to know how to do everything. We need to find the people to surround us with that know how. You don't have to learn. As the CEO of your company, you don't need to know everything, but you need to hire the right people around you that do. And there's a huge shift and difference in that thinking. And so anyway, that's where I went with that.
Well, it needed exactly where it needed to go. And I think for me, that masculine balance of what you just were talking about the tech industry, but with your mentor, it's that the feminine for me is like the ability just to feel whatever it is in the present moment. That's a superpower.
Yes.
When we allow it to become our weakness, that's the same superpower, but just from a different perspective. And I do view when the physical symptoms come up, I notice in myself the mental chatter, the fears, the negative self-talk come up because I truly believe, just like we talked about earlier, the post-retreat body catching up. I do think our bodies are doing the same thing, at least for me in my experience, just during normal day life. It's as we continue taking the steps of growth and expansion and keeping up with who we already are, our body's processing as well. And so in those moments, yes, of course, the triggers and the self-talk is going to be more negative because I view it almost like, oh, it's just bubbling up to the surface to just relax and to let go because, my partner, he beautifully is very direct masculine energy and I'm very feminine energy, great balance for each other. But he told me this week, of course, exactly very close to what your mentor said, is you don't realize you're so much further than you think you are. Your mind wants to judge. Your mind wants to imposter syndrome and say, I'm not but whatever story wants to come up. But you're so much further than you think you actually are.
Such a good lesson. Ugh. If nobody hears anything but that message, that's a good message. Because think about it. If we could learn that message, think about a child and think about all the growth and all they know and all they learn the first 2 years of their life. We would all be geniuses if we kept learning at that rate. But we let the world and our environment just start coming in, with that chatter. And I think if we learn that early on, oh wow, anyone could be unstoppable because we have it within. And if you don't feel like you do, there's places to go and learn how to get that. So that would be my challenge. If you don't feel like you have it, figure out where you can get it.
Yeah. And I think one more note on that came up for me is, I think the inner perfectionist in me, and I've seen a lot of women who are accomplished or driven, is there's this like false sense of perfection of like when you're successful, you're never going to have a bad day. You're never going to have a bad emotion or negative self-talk or any, that's a
Wait,
bunch of BS. Yeah. And so that whatever the negative quote unquote, 'cause there are no negative emotions or self-talk, that's supposed to happen because it's showing you maybe behind the scenes subconsciously where you've been focusing on that you didn't realize consciously. So it's a huge opportunity for us to say, ooh, where can I change my thinking? How can I improve a skill? Like you said, how can I focus on the solution versus focusing on the problem? That's a huge thing that I notice myself. Am I focusing on the problem right now? Or am I focusing on actually figuring out how this is going to get solved? Two different complete energies. And to bring it back to law of attraction, that's part of the law of attraction is the contrast.
yeah,
That aspect, the unknown, the unexpected, it's literally part of the process. It's not just the rainbows and butterflies because we wouldn't grow, we wouldn't change. I think that's how we started this whole conversation.
yeah. I have one more thing I want to add. Keeps in my head to say about sleep. So
Mm-hmm.
you've all been probably asked if you've done any kind of personal development, what keeps you up at night? That's like a big question. And it used to always kind of bother me because I slept like a baby and nothing kept me up. And I think not that it didn't ever happen, but I learned years ago that life is going to throw you curveballs. Life is going to be stressful. And I know I needed that 7 to 8 hour sleep to function. If I'm not functioning, then who am I good to? Nobody. So I somehow learned how to compartmentalize thoughts. And I would like one thing I would do was if something just kept coming up, over and over, I would like lift it up onto an imaginary cloud and then watch that cloud take that thought off. And I've just been able to sleep and it's helped me function. The other thing that has really helped me that I did last for my healing journey was get a good doctor. Mine's a hybrid. He's a nurse practitioner, but have him check your hormones because we don't really have, I just can't stress enough how many things the hormones control. And that was a game changer for me. I went from probably 75% where I thought that's my new norm. I'm going to be 75% of what I was, to probably 95% just changing hormonal stuff. And it was just weird because I didn't feel like I was having all these issues. But when we fixed those issues and balanced things out, all of a sudden, boom, all my long COVID symptoms went away. It was just like a game changer. So just know, like those things that people say are so true. Like I am living true testament example of it. But if you're suffering from non-sleep, there's things you can do to help that, but you can't change it while you're sleeping. It's not gonna, you might get some ahas or some downloads while you're sleeping and get a solution. Great. You'll wake up with a solution. Go to sleep to get it. But figure out that way because sleep's a huge part of that. Also with hormones too. Yeah.
Yes. And for women, I mean, we need more sleep, like than men do. I don't think we realize that. And for me, it's like honestly, like 8, even 9 hours. And if my body is processing something,
Need more.
I need more.
Do you know the test to know how much your body needs?
No, what is it?
I don't know if there's science behind it. I would assume somebody told me years ago. And so I was excited to try it. When I went on a cruise, I did it because it was easy because you had no schedule. We didn't like have early excursions or anything. So they say, go to bed and wake up like whatever you want. Like, so stay up as late as you want or wake up as early as you want. And day 4, do the same thing and count how many hours you slept. Don't have anything in the way though, like any appointments. Like just know that, I can watch, I can do this late and then I can sleep in or whatever. But that day 4, you add up the hours you slept and that's supposedly what your body really needs.
Hmm. Hmm.
And of course you need more when you're going through things. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, as women, speaking of hormones, if you're still on your menstrual cycle, I know for me that I need more sleep during that time than I do other times in the month just to support my body. And I totally agree. Hormone balance, no matter how old you are as a woman, is very important for sleep, for emotional well-being and focus. Like I can't stress that enough. Is like I know I'm like, oh, I gotta dial some stuff in because I just noticed, oh, the emotional blow-ups, oh, the physical symptoms, oh, my body needs some extra support detoxing, extra support balancing out hormones. It's not just actual, diagnosis like PCOS or endometriosis or anything like that, or PMS. It's so much more, and how that actually affects us
Right.
day to day.
Calories. Did you know that when you're on your menstrual cycle, you should eat at least 100 calories more?
Wow.
So it's probably why you have extra cravings during that time too, because when you're more hungry, you need to eat more.
You need more.
Your body's working hard.
It is. I know it is definitely your menstrual phase in your cycle is the most, I don't know, energy burning, but it's the most hardest working your body is the energy it expels. So that makes total sense. I want to bring back to retreats for a little bit because I think that'll be a great way to tie all this together.
Sure.
A lot of the listeners probably been to retreats before. A lot of our listeners have their own businesses, want to start their own businesses. They've been on the healing journey. You're still in the process of creating, but I know you're building a community around this. What, somebody who has been to retreats, but maybe wants to start being that leader, start to host a retreat. That's a different shift in energy as well.
Yeah.
What do you recommend? Like, what are some tips as somebody who wants to start to retreat as a leader, leading it, and add that into their business?
Well, I think as part of your business plan, you need to figure out those goals, strategies, tactics, and objectives. Figure those out for that as well. Don't get into it to lose money. A lot of people just don't know what you don't know and learn the hard way and end up paying to do a retreat. And you don't want to do that. If it's part of your business plan, there's also things you can upsell. If you're coaching, you can upsell coaching packages. It's a great way to bring people into your fold. They'll know if they know, like, and trust you if they've spent 3 to 7 days with you. You'll also know if you want them as a client, because we can choose as business owners to have someone as a client or not. And I think it's just to start, make sure that you've attended, I would say, at least 2 different kinds of retreats yourself. Make the investment. Remember, it's a tax write-off. Use it through your business and join people. There's lots of Facebook groups. Ours is All Things Retreat. You can go on there and it's fairly new, but you can get on there and learn things. We have a podcast called All Things Retreat. So we'll be teaching tons of things at no cost that you can come in and learn. And just when we interview people, listen to their wisdom. Listen to, they've been there, done that. And then, like we started this whole podcast, don't make all those mistakes yourself. Learn from listening. And that's a huge skill. But I think you need to attend them. And then when you do your own, it wouldn't be a bad idea to partner with somebody and do it. We offer the concierge service. That's a lot higher end. So for people that have a tribe of people and have a community of people already, so they can fill them easily, because that's one thing we don't do, is we don't fill them for you. So people that are wanting to do that, stay in your zone of genius and let a concierge event planner do everything for it. All those logistics. We can't even be boots on the ground at the retreat. So you actually get to sleep at your own retreat. You're not up dealing with all the issues and things that are challenges coming up, because when you do events, there's just always things. There's always things coming up. And it's great to know somebody has your back there to do that. And you can always buffer that in your costs. So those are just some things I would say. But definitely, jump on our podcast, because you'll be hearing a lot of great feedback and you'll learn a ton. You could binge those. They're 20 minutes or so.
Beautiful. Yeah, I know I've been to a bunch of retreats, and I know fellow business owners who've had to pay for retreats. It just,
yeah.
And that's just that's scary. And I think that's kind of holding some people back from wanting to do that part of their business. So great wisdom on your podcast, and hopefully soon even more than the concierge service. From behind the scenes, you guys are working hard on figuring that out as well. So yeah, thank you so much, Holly. This is, I think, a good place to kind of close things down. Was there anything else on your heart you wanted to share today?
I say, do what Nike says. Just do it. Just figure out what you want. Just do it. Take the leap. Do it fair.
That's how we start. I mean, that's how we started it. Set the intention and let it go and just do it. Well, thank you so much for coming on again. If you guys haven't already subscribed, whether you're watching on YouTube or any podcast streaming platform, if you guys like this episode, please write a review. That really, really helps us spread this beautiful energy through the whole world. That's the reason why I started this podcast, I believe, almost 7 years ago now, which is crazy to think, and how much this has grown and how many people have been inspired along the way. That was my intention. But thank you guys so much for listening to another episode. And remember, your body and emotions are not in the way. They are leading your way to your success. Until next time.